Restaurant Unstoppable episode 674 with Hagop Giragossian. With excitement, allow me to introduce you today's guest, Hagop Giragossian. Are you feeling unstoppable today, Hagop?
I absolutely feel unstoppable.
Yes, I cannot wait to dive into your story. I know it's going to be a good one. So Hagop Giragossian is a restaurant industry professional with over 14 years of experience, predominantly in the QSR and Fast Casual segment. He began his food service management career in 2000 with Boar's Java. After 3 years, he sold the business and opened Pasadena's first gastropub, King's Grow. In 2010, Hagop, along with business partners, I want you to say your business partners' names for me real quick, because I don't know I'm going to destroy them if I try.
Quasim, Riaz, and Vener.
Thank you. Opened the first Dog Haus in Pasadena, California. 9 years later, they have scaled the operation to over 30 locations. You said 35 locations, with the 36 opening this week
Yep,
in
this
18
week.
states.
Gilbert, Arizona.
Man, you guys have been going hard. I cannot wait to get into your story, but let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling. Actually, before you share that with us, I have to say thank you to our boy Nima for setting this up. Nima is one of your franchisees.
Yes.
He reached out to me, big fan of the show. He said, you gotta tell the story of Dog Haus. You gotta get one of the founders on there. Here we are. We're gonna share the story, and thank you for connecting me, Nima. And I am listening. If you're out there listening to the show, if you think of somebody I should get on the show, let me know. I will do my best.
Yeah, well, I was impressed. He reached out saying, would you be interested in doing it? And I didn't think you'd be interested in having me on it.
Oh,
but
what?
I appreciated both sides.
Oh, yeah. So let's get into it. So I was going to have you share that success quote or a mantra. What do you got for us?
So I knew you were going to ask me that question. I realized I don't have one. So I actually Googled it, and then I printed 51 of them that I brought with me. But I won't bore anybody by reading them. But, I'm a big fan of the Rocky movies, so I think it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you get hit and get back up. It's a fun one.
So you took some hits along the way. We started getting into it during the pre-recording chat. I told you to stop because I didn't want too much of a teaser, but we got some good stuff coming. Where does it start to make sense to share your story?
When in our lives? Well, I think I don't have, neither do my partners actually have any background in the restaurant industry. We didn't have, family members that own restaurants. I didn't work in one as a waiter. I did work as a bar back for about 4 hours once in college, and then that didn't work out. So really our business started, and our venture into restaurants started back when we thought we wanted to, get into the business and own a restaurant, and we bought one in 2005. In fact, on November 12th, it's going to be our 14-year anniversary of being in the business.
So you're saying who are we talking about at this point in your life? When you said the first restaurant?
Quasim Riaz, my partner currently at Dog Haus. He was my partner right out of college in a business that we still have. And then our first restaurant was with two other of our friends, Shibby Dillon and Aiden Yusuf. And then Dog Haus is now with Andre, Quasim, and myself.
Got you. So what was it that was drawing you to the restaurant industry with no prior experience? What was like the lure at this time?
The truth is we actually wanted to get into the bar business because we like drinking.
Yeah.
Sounds stupid.
Well, how old were you at this time?
I had my 30th birthday. Quasim and I have birthdays 12 days apart, same year. So we actually celebrated our 30th birthday at our first restaurant, which was days into owning it.
Nice. So 2010, 30th. So
2004, 2015.
But this is
not Dog Haus, King's Row. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So this isn't your first business, though. I think it's worth warranting that you were kind of an entrepreneur before this, because you owned a powder coating company.
Still
right?
do. Yep.
Still do. So I'm assuming that was successful, and maybe it was what kind of empowered you or enabled you to try different ventures. Is that a wrong assumption?
No, it was right. I mean, we had not obviously, but we've had ups and downs, lots of downs and lots of ups. But at the time when we decided to move into the restaurant bar space, we were having a pretty good success, and we felt like it was time to kind of fulfill more of a passion than the business that we were in. When you're in powder coating, you see all different types of businesses. You work with all different types of businesses. We work with restaurants. We actually powder coated, stuff for some of our favorite restaurants, and worked with designers who were, building furniture and etc. So that was the only kind of
behind the scenes
that we had. But we felt like we had something of we had interest and we had passion in it. I'm also very passionate about food. Sounds cheesy to say. I think it's pretty.
Let me help you with that, Mike. There
Sorry,
you go.
buddy.
No, you're
All
good.
right.
You're good.
All right. So I think it was a good fit for us to check it out. Turns out we were terrible at it. When we jumped into it, we had no experience. I always tell everybody, I think one of the most interesting things about restaurants is if you've never been in a restaurant before, even if you own it, every single person that works in that restaurant has more experience than you.
Well, you've learned a lot over the past 14 years. So knowing what you know now, reflecting back at those early days, you said you weren't doing a great job. What weren't you doing well, knowing what you know now?
Oh, pretty easy. I think the number one thing that we didn't, I mean, if you're going to pick a list, it'd be a long list. But I think the number one thing that we knew, we know now that we didn't know then was, stick to something that you believe in. Like I said, when we started the restaurant, we had no experience. So then every time somebody gave us an opinion about something, we changed our own mind and we let that guide our direction. And, if you looked at what we were the day we opened from what we were a year later, we were a very different brand. That's what we learned, I think, and that's what we have all kind of, stuck to at Dog Haus, is that we had an idea. We had a concept from the very beginning that we believed in. And if you look at Dog Haus on day one and you look at Dog Haus today, 9 years later, we're the same place.
Yeah, so it sounds like you were still trying to figure out what your identity was. And you didn't understand the importance of having an identity and then sticking to it so you don't confuse people with what your brand is, right?
1,000%.
But at the same time, I feel like it doesn't come overnight. You have to live, you have to experience things to kind of figure out who you are.
Yeah.
So you don't know until you know. So, I mean, if you're going through that same thing right now, if you're experiencing this, I mean, your first restaurant wasn't a knock out of the park. It takes time, or was it?
No, not even close. In fact, I was listening to a podcast once with David Chang on it, and I remember him saying there was a time when he was going to open a restaurant that he knew he could fail, and when he knew that, he didn't open that restaurant because he stopped being he's that part of you that pushes to the end. If it's not as serious and it's not of not as big of a importance in your life. For example, if we would have given up on our first restaurant when the business was absolutely failing, we were dumping in money every week, we wouldn't have been here today. But the truth is that we needed to keep feeding the restaurant, because if we would have just closed it, we all would have lost so much money we wouldn't have been able to
recover.
Yeah, we felt like we wouldn't have been able to recover. I mean, who knows what would have happened? But
is that restaurant around until today?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and that's
Kings Row.
Yeah. So when did that start to turn around?
Actually, it turned around after. So it wasn't Kings Row when we opened it. It was called Neo Meze. It was supposed to be a small plates Mediterranean type concept with a lounge. We didn't stick to our guns, so when we started off Mediterranean, by the end of it, we're serving all different types of food, and it wasn't really at all the concept that we had set out to open. But along the way, in all the failure, two of us partners, one Quasim and myself, we fell in love with the business. He got really into the bar side, specifically beer. I got really into the food side. I went to a small culinary school in Pasadena. The idea of Dog Haus kind of was born, where we then partnered up with Vener, who's, the three of us are the co-founders of Dog Haus. After we opened up Dog Haus, we went back. We finally had confidence in ourselves, and we said, you know what? I think we know what we're doing. Let's believe in ourselves. We changed Neo Meze's concept. We closed it. We opened literally, I think, 4 days later as Kings Row Gastropub. So now it's about to have its 9th year anniversary.
I mean, some good must have been happening because you guys were you were still in love with it, right? It couldn't have been a completely horrible relationship if you were in love, right? So what was it that you were falling in love with? What was making you continuing to show up every day?
We literally just fell in love with the business. The idea of the business was no longer an idea. It was a reality, and it's all about people. I mean, there's fun. There's a lot of fun to be having in a restaurant when it's going well. The food is great, obviously the bar, et cetera. All those things are exciting, but the truth is the most important thing to us and to me is the people. If you go to Kings Row today, there's people working there that were there from when it was Neo Meze, and now they're still working there.
That's a testament.
9 years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, that's, and even here we're at our second ever open Dog Haus. Dog Haus Beer Garden opened up 8 years ago. Just had its 8-year anniversary. Guys that were working here the day we opened are still here.
Wow.
So that's the most important thing.
So I think this is something a lot of people who are listening to the show, or I'm assuming maybe their first restaurant, maybe they're listening because they want to improve. They're struggling perhaps. How were you able to continue to show up and have fun, even though you knew you were struggling, even though it was a challenge? And reflecting back, you said wasn't what you had hoped it would have been, but you still stayed positive. You still had fun. How did you find that ability to keep showing up with that positivity even during the hard times?
I wish I had an easy answer. I was telling you before we jumped on the pod that there was 4 partners at that first restaurant. 2 of us decided to never be in the restaurant business again, and 2 of us came up with the idea of Dog Haus and moved on and partnered with Andre. And I truly believe it was just I enjoyed working with the people in that space, specifically our employees. And there's something really gratifying about owning a restaurant and seeing people come in, and you get to provide them with a great experience, whether it's culinary or just environmental. Any of those things are really interesting. To be able to be the person to allow guests to have a great time. Allow is a bad word, but the point is, like, there's, and I don't know if it's not that serious, it's not that important, and it feels almost foolish, but it's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
Right. People come in, have
Absolutely.
a good time, and they had a good time in your place with the things that you've created and the ideas that you've come up with as a group, which is highly collaborative, right? Especially with 3 owners. That's a big.
And that's one thing
tough.
you do really well.
Yeah.
Your team does really well. I'm sure we'll unpackage that more as the
Sure.
conversation moves forward. But any lessons from partnerships during this first restaurant? Because 2 partners decided to go their own way. Was that related to the business, or was it because it wasn't for them?
Yeah.
What were the lessons you learned about partnership during that experience?
I have a really good experience with partnership because, we kind of break all the rules in partnerships. Like, don't be partners with your friends. We're all fucking best friends. Don't work with family. I work with family.
I don't believe in any of that shit either.
I don't believe in that shit. I mean, if you look at Dog Haus, we have Andre's cousin's a franchisee. Quasim's brother is a franchisee. My sister is a franchisee. My cousin runs operations for Dog Haus. We work with we've had our nieces and nephews work for us. Like, it is a massive, big family, and I think it's actually very important to the identity of our company that it's like that. My best friend from the age of 3 works with us. So the idea of partners, we were all great friends, and what we did is we always put our friendship first and the other person first, because we were good at being friends.
Yeah.
And it was a real, and even though we're all losing together, and we stuck together and we fought through it. And so the desire for 2 of my partners to not move on and be, open up more restaurants wasn't anything about the partnership. It was about they felt they were better at doing other things. And the truth is they've been very successful.
So is that a core value that you guys are woven into your business, to put the family and friends first, or is it like an unspoken rule?
I think so. No, I think it's, hopefully I feel like our franchisees believe that too, because, Nima, who is a franchisee of ours, who I feel like is definitely part of the Dog Haus family. I'm hoping and feeling he thought the same way, which is why he, even recommended that we do this. So yeah, I do believe it's a huge part of it. And if we, one of the things that we do, I think, better is we care for others better than we would have cared for ourselves. And by that, I mean, when you own your own restaurant, we've been more lackadaisical because it's our money and it isn't as serious. It's serious, but it isn't as serious as if somebody else is invested in you. And when somebody else invests in you, we took that so seriously, incredibly seriously, so that we worked harder. We mess up and we fuck up all the time, but it isn't due to not caring. And that's definitely what we try to not just preach, but what we try to practice.
I love it. Any other big lessons we can kind of pull out of your early days before we start talking about the vision for Dog Haus and how you made it come to fruition? I
mean, I think we touched on the most important parts, which was as cliche as it sounds, is never give up. We didn't give up, and because we didn't give up, we were able to pass through tough times, come across good times. I mean, there was definitely times where we probably should have quit, very much so. And because we did that, and because we were able to push through, and we were able to do that, we now know when we look back, and now when there's adversity, we could look at it and go, there's a chance that you could push through with this, and then on the other side, there's great success. But one of our franchisees actually told me a really funny story. He's not funny, but he's a successful restaurateur. He's been a franchisee for many different brands. First restaurant he ever opened went out of business. The partner he was with said, "I'll never open a restaurant again," and it was a franchise. His wife was like, "Let's just do one more. I think I have a great location. I found it. It's amazing. It's actually in Pasadena," and she talked him into doing one more, and it was such a success. He went on to open 100.
Wow!
And he's lived a successful career.
We've got to know the name of this restaurant group.
The first restaurant he opened was a Johnny Rockets. The second restaurant he opened was a Johnny Rockets.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't the brand. It wasn't the operator. Timing, location. There's so many factors.
There's so many variables.
So many variables.
And I think people take it personally. They don't recognize how many things can inhibit a restaurant from working. They think it's them, but there's so many little things that you might not even be aware of.
Look at the largest restaurant chain in the world is Subway. I think the very first Subway that ever opened closed.
Really?
Right. Like,
but they figured it out. They learned something.
They fucking
right?
figured it out. I mean, 45,000 restaurants
Exactly.
later, if you quit after the first one, it doesn't work. Not everybody has the desire to keep with it, and not everybody has the means to keep with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that us learning that was an incredibly valuable lesson. Chili cheese, you might want to try the chili cheese. Maybe. Yeah, just because.
All right.
Since he's
If
here,
you
I'm
insist.
just going to go all the way back to New Hampshire.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, we're back. And I'm not sure if it starts to make sense to unpackage the Dog Haus, or what happened first? The reinvention. It was a year after you reinvented the first restaurant, right?
Yeah, so first thing was Neo Meze. Then we opened up our first Dog Haus.
Okay.
After we felt like we kind of, we started really being confident in at least what we believed in.
Paint that picture of what the confidence, what happened in Meze that changed, that helped you regain your confidence?
It was really just the idea of, when we opened up Neo Meze, we did it in a way that was, I think, pretty uncharacteristic of us. We picked a concept that we really, didn't really want to go
Don't
to.
mind me.
Sorry, but
No, you're doing great.
Keeps dropping out. We opened something
Don't
that.
be afraid to grab that sucker too and move it.
And just bring it around.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
Yeah, you're good.
So we didn't feel that it was a place for us. We also hired a designer. We did a bunch of things that we really didn't. It didn't kind of fit our style. So when we did Dog Haus, we said, "Fuck it, we're gonna do it our way." Right?
Mm.
We created the menu ourselves. We didn't hire any chef consultants. We designed the space ourselves. In fact, because of pyramid powder coating, we built all the furniture ourselves, and we still do that today. All the furniture on this patio that you're sitting on is made by us.
I love it.
Yeah, by our other company. So that was it. That was like, Quasim designs. Andre creates marketing campaigns. And I think that was a huge part for us is to, when we opened up Neo Meze, we didn't have Andre. Andre and Quasim and I were just, we're friends and we're acquaintances, but we had not worked together at that level. Andre's greatest skill set, I believe, is connecting to community. So when we partnered up at Dog Haus, which Dog Haus wasn't Dog Haus at the time, we all just wanted to open up a hot dog place. And we just happened to be doing it at the same time. When we decided to be together and open up Dog Haus, when he brought that component, I think that was a huge game changer for us. Because now we have our design and construction, we do our culinary ops, and then we had marketing and finance. We have, we came together as a group of people, and we didn't just sit there and go, hey, you do this or you do that. We all just kind of came together as partners, and through that time, we started seeing who was really good at stuff. There was no labels on it back then. It was like, I didn't know that Andre was amazing at marketing or good at, creating a community. He just did it, organically.
Yeah.
And then we said, oh, that's a
I
really
think
good
that's
thing
the
to have.
natural process. As we put ourselves into groups, into teams, we naturally find our lanes.
Yep.
Lanes just happen naturally. And I think this comes back, and this is something that I say all the time. I don't think that you can be competitive today in this market without partners because of how good you have to be at so many different things. And it's unrealistic to think
I
that
don't
one
even want to
person...
know what it would be like to be alone. Yeah.
And and you guys found your lanes, and you have when you're in your own lanes, that means you can put 100% of what it is that you do best into that one thing.
Yeah.
And think about how diluted we get as one person trying to juggle all those things. When you can divide and conquer, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's one of the things that really contributed to your success.
100%. That was a big, I mean, other than the fact that we're great partners because we like each other, like I was saying earlier, same with the partnerships we've had before. That part is an amazing, amazing to be a partner in a business like that. But
sharing victories and partnerships are so much better too, right?
well, I mean, I think they say that you're going to find, whether you have a great partner through great success or through great failure. We've had great failure, and we've also had, success. And I think we know what we are both, when both meaning all of our partners, what we're good at and what we're not good at. It's really nice to have a partnership where you care for each other, but also you all have a, similar skill set, but also a very different skill set.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, I couldn't design anything, and I couldn't create a marketing campaign for the life of me.
Yeah. So paint that original vision for us as you guys were starting to have the conversation about why you wanted to do dogs. Why did you think it was going to work? Like, what was calling to you about this concept?
For me, nothing. For me, it was the idea of, so when we had Neo Meza, we had a very busy, at some point it became, why I say we're such a failure at Neo Meza is it went from being a restaurant lounge to a very, cheesy nightclub. And we had door guy and charging cover, and there was like 2 DJs and dancing and all this stuff, and that was definitely not a place for us, but that's what was happening. And by the way, you're not allowed to do that just because. So what used to fucking piss me off is that we'd sit there and sometimes we'd have 400 people in the restaurant at a night.
Wow.
And nobody would order food.
Ugh.
And it used to drive me crazy. And I remember sitting there talking to Quasim, and I was like, every single person in this entire place is going to leave and go eat.
Right.
But we can't sell them a goddamn thing in the restaurant. So I'm like, what if I just set up a cart right outside? I'll sell like burgers and whatever. And when we were always in college, Quasim, he always used to say, dude, nobody sells good hot dogs, right? Like you either go to Costco, but no one's doing it right. We should open up a hot dog concept. And we used to joke around. He would call it What Up Dog and this and that. Andre's background, he's born in Switzerland, raised in Germany. That culture is very much so, in sausages. And so he grew up doing that. So when he was coming up with his idea of wanting to be in the hot dog business, it was different from ours. Ours was like, like it was a joke in college that all of a sudden Quasim was like, hey, we should really try it. And Andres was like, hey, the food truck scene was happening. He kind of always had the idea of wanting to get into this business because of his childhood. And so, where our paths crossed is that, when we had the coffee truck back in the beginning, which was our first, it wasn't a restaurant, but our first business in the hospitality industry was a mobile coffee truck. We were doing, what year was this? It was like 2000. First
5, I think I saw.
Yeah, I have
your
20,
LinkedIn
20 years
profile
ago.
right here.
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Okay. Damn.
Yeah, 20 years ago we had this coffee truck, and we used to work. We were a vendor of Andres when he was he used to produce the California Philharmonic Outdoor Concert Series. So that's how we met. That's how we became friends. So when he decided he wanted to open up a food truck, he wanted to call it the Wiener Wagon. He called me up and said, hey, I want to pick your brain about something. He had no fucking clue that Q and I had already signed a lease. We had no idea what we were going to do. We just knew
on the
it was
first location for Dog Haus.
First location of Dog Haus.
Okay. Keep
we
going.
We had already signed the lease. It wasn't called Dog Haus. We didn't have a menu. We didn't have any of that stuff worked out, but we're like, we're going to open up a hot dog restaurant. When I go and I meet with Andre, he's like, I want to pick your brain. I'm like, what did you want to pick my brain about? He's like, I want to open up a food truck. Food trucks were all happening back then, right? This is 2000
or no, earlier.
2004.
Oh, wow.
So this is like, booming industry in the food truck.
So the conversation for hot dogs started 6 years before actually opening.
Sorry. No, you're right. 2009.
Okay, gotcha.
So 2009, it was middle of the recession, having a full-size restaurant was challenging. It's expensive.
We got some more food at the table.
Thank
They
you,
have been
Reggie.
taking
Thank you.
care of me. I have to say, I've had half of at least 2 hot dogs, or in 2 hot dogs, or 1 hot dog, a sausage, a veggie,
The Beyond.
the Beyond,
Yeah, so veggie.
an Impossible Burger,
Impossible
which disappeared
slider.
faster than you would even.
It was impossible how fast you ate it.
And then we have there's video too. We'll be sure to with the video. By the way, there are video episodes. I haven't published any of them, but there is video for this episode. We'll have some B-roll where I'll show some of the food. Sorry to interrupt. Keep
Sorry about that.
going with your story. So I
What
think you were
was-
talking
so
about, yeah.
we decided that Andre wants to be
I'm gonna eat tots while
get
you
in
talk.
there. Yeah, Andre wants to be in the food truck business. I'm like, I was in it. It's really hard. You saw guys like Kogi and Roy Choi make it seem like it was the coolest thing in the world, but that was because they were just grinders.
They also made it look easy.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of success they had was unbelievable. But the truth is, it's a really tough business, right? Really hard, and it takes a lot of work and effort. Not that anything does, but
Get into some of the
specifically in truck.
realities of that, because I think a lot of people, everyone thinks, I think it's starting to wane a little bit. Not so many people are excited about food trucks. They think it's going to be the way, it's the bee's knees.
Yeah.
It's not logistically, it's not the easiest way to.
Well,
to run
that's
a business.
exactly the problem. Is logistically,
Yeah.
right? It's like it is very hard to run an entire restaurant out of a truck. First of all, the truck is difficult itself. It's hard to have an entire restaurant on a truck and for that truck to operate,
Yeah.
optimally. If that one day your truck doesn't work, your business doesn't work.
Yep.
Right? Where in
Or
a
if you
restaurant,
don't work, your business
if you
doesn't
don't work,
work.
your business doesn't work. You also, weather is, when you have a restaurant, and you hopefully have people come to your restaurant, but your entire focus is to get people to come there. When you have a truck, you have to find customers and then hope they come to your restaurant.
Yeah.
Come to your restaurant.
Yep.
There's a lot of effort, in a way that I found exhausting, and I think truthfully, if we had different success, maybe I would have felt different about it. But when Andre told me that, I remember going, "This is an unbelievable coincidence that you're interested in doing this." While Quasim and I just signed a lease in our first, and what we want to be a hot dog restaurant. So I went home that night, and Andre texted me. He's like, "This is a little fucking strange. Like, I think we need to talk a little bit further. It's a little too odd that we've decided that we all just are having the same idea at the same time, and we're all friends. So maybe we should explore this a little more." I think within the next day, we were already business partners, and we moved forward together, the three of us.
This is something that I think is telling to your ability to collaborate. Even you see it here, and I think a lot of people, when they find out that somebody is doing something similar to them, their first reaction is, "Oh, f this guy or f that." Like, I gotta
we're
beat
the
them.
opposite of
Like
that, yeah.
you like they your butthole puckers a little bit when you feel like there's competition.
Oh, everybody. This not everybody, but a lot of times when people see competition, they find them to be like their enemy. Whereas I think we've been fortunate enough. Not only maybe it shows that in the fact that we have partnerships, but we've been fortunate enough to have mentors along the way that were in the same industry, and they were so willing to share with us experiences, contacts, all types of things that they had learned that we felt like it was important
Yeah.
for us to do the same.
And you guys have a natural similar passion, right?
Yeah.
So instead of competing against each other, why not compound that energy into
Yeah.
one cause, right?
Agreed.
And all pull in the same direction. You're gonna
Yeah.
have a better odds of success.
Yeah.
So the conversation to do a dog concept
Yep.
is now gonna happen. How are you living intentionally to make sure it would be a success?
Well, I think what was great is that we started, so Quasim and I had been in a restaurant, and Andre at that time owned a restaurant called Red, White, and Blues. So he had previous restaurant experience. Again, not a great success. We had previous restaurant experience, not a great success. We learned from that success what we felt would be helpful and what wouldn't be. And definitely one of the things we all together felt was important was to create an identity and to fight for that identity.
What did that process of creating that identity look like?
Drinking champagne. I remember I think the last thing that we did when we picked the name Dog Haus, I remember drinking a can of champagne. I don't even know if they exist anymore, but somehow I ended up with
No, I
a can of champagne.
think they're still around. I think they're actually growing in popularity.
Yeah, well,
Like wine and champagne and
wine.
cans.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen a can of champagne in a while, but it was.
But
it
I mean,
happened.
you're joking around. You say drinking, but what you're doing is you're just brainstorming. You're trying to. You're
we're
getting
just-
out.
because
Who
we're
are
friends.
we?
Yeah,
Right?
we're
Who
friends,
are
we're
we?
friends.
What's most important
Yeah.
to us? Like, what's the mission? You're spitballing. And sometimes you have a few drinks, so it loosens you up. You
Absolutely.
flow more naturally.
Yeah.
So what did that vision look like at the end of this conversation, who were you going to be? And are you the same today as you were at the end of that conversation?
We are exactly who we were then. I would like to think better, but if you really looked at the identity of Dog Haus, and even just conceptually Dog Haus, we are who we were and who we set out to be then. And I think we've just gotten a little bit more refined, a little bit better at what we do, hopefully. And everything along the way has improved incrementally, through experiences and through trial and error. But I think if you look back at the original Dog Haus, other than the way we toasted our buns, I think we look almost the exact same as we did on day one than we do today.
Can you get specific as to what things you were identifying that you like, not necessarily who you were, but the elements that you wanted to touch to make sure that you were a well-rounded or rounded off identity? You picking up what I'm putting down? Like, were there bullet points that you're checking off, or were you?
Yeah, I mean, we've never been as organized as that, but I will say that one of our things was being inclusive. So, you just ate the Impossible Burger. Impossible Burger, although it's new on our menu, by new meaning I think it's been about 14 months, but we've had vegetarian offerings since the day we opened. Like,
that thing was freakishly good, by the way.
It's shocking.
Scary.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Yeah.
I just had to emphasize.
Well, and what's amazing is we could talk about this for another few hours, but it's going to make people who don't find themselves to be the kind of guy to eat or girl to eat a veggie burger find, like, I could eat a veggie burger, right? I could substitute one burger or one hot dog, a month.
I think it's too good to be true. It has to, like 10 years from now, we're going to find out what causes cancer.
Hopefully not. But I think so being inclusive was a huge part of our idea of the company we want it to be. So like I said, we serve veggie products because we wanted, everybody wants to be something when they come out, and everybody for example, it'd be really nice to be In and Out, right? It'd be simple, stick to their menu. They don't change anything. It's very easy. They just focus on being who they are. I mean, that wasn't us, right? We set out to be, Dog Haus, and through Dog Haus, we wanted to be inclusive. So by being inclusive, we offer different offerings, and I think that's just an example of the kind of people that we wanted to be, and the kind of people that we are, and the kind of community we wanted to grow around Dog Haus, not only in our staff, in our fans, and eventually in our franchisees.
But you mentioned doing one thing really well, like you use In and Out. They do the burger, they burger fries, and they nail it and they crush it.
Fucking nail it.
You guys starting out, it sounds like you kind of had that same mentality that we want to do hot dogs better than anybody else. We're going to own the hot dog. If you want a hot dog, there's only one place to go. It's the Dog Haus.
Yeah. Well,
was that kind of working in the back of your head, like doing one thing way better than everybody else?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, we wanted to be really good at what we did, and that was going to be something that we would not compromise on. One of the things why we thought we would never be a franchisor, and why Dog Haus as a brand would never be a franchise, we had a misunderstanding of what it meant to be that. Everybody's like, oh, you're going to lose your soul. You're not going to be, you're going to not serve the same quality of product. And I could tell you with the most confidence in the world, and obviously firsthand knowledge, is that not only are we better at what we do, not only do we sell a better quality product than we did when we started, we do all those things as a franchise, and I think that is really interesting because it took time for us to finally.
We'll get into the evolution of how that came to be, but take us to day one. You open the doors. You're in business. What was it like?
So I'll take you to day
and I'll continue
-1. The day before we opened up Dog Haus, I started the culinary school. So I remember leaving the night before.
It's a great time to start your enrollment.
What a ding dong, right? October 19th, 2010. I literally walk out while we're finishing. I mean, we built the restaurant, by our own hands. Like, I remember walking out. Andre and Quasim are in the restaurant. My buddy Abe, who's our director of operations, is in the restaurant. We're like, we didn't have a condiment station, so I had a bar from IKEA that I'm like, let's use this. I remember leaving that night because, hey, sorry guys, I got to go to start culinary school. I'm wearing like chef pants and like the checkered funky looking chef pants. Anyway, Quasim was cutting out the top of my IKEA bar so he could fit in half pans to use as a condiment station, which I think we used for like almost 3 years. So that was the day before we opened. The day we opened, one of our employees today actually was our very first customer. That's a really cool story. Another one of our employees is the reason why we smash burgers. It was his idea. In fact, the very first day we opened, we just served regular patties, and halfway through the day, he's like, "We should, have you ever thought of this?" From day 2 on, we serve burgers like that.
Like in the early days, you're trying a lot of things out.
Yeah.
After the first couple days, the first couple weeks, how much did things change from there?
So things only changed by, I think, quality. We still serve hot dogs, we serve sausages, we serve burgers, we served a slider, we serve fries, tater tots, onion rings, etc. Our menu is almost identical, but the quality of the beef changed. The amount of items on the menu changed. It grew just because, there's a culture in hot dogs which is very topping heavy, and so as you start creating getting more toppings to put on your dogs, those dogs turn into burgers and etc. Excuse me.
No, yeah, you're good.
So where we improved was the look and feel of the space. So we went from plastic baskets to customizable boats that we've designed ourselves, the trays that we serve it on. Yeah, the branded, all that stuff was stuff in the way it grew. I mean, the first time we opened our restaurant, our cash register didn't have a printer on it. It didn't. All it did is ring up money. Like it didn't. There was no POS. Everything was done on paper tickets. So we evolved in that way. But if you, like I said, if you look at the brand, you look at pictures from day one of Dog Haus, it's just a little brother.
I guess what I was getting at is how long did it take you to lock everything in? Because as a franchise, one of the things that you can't have is any differences between locations, right? Like you need to be consistent.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for you guys to really lock it in? And then is that like when you started saying we can make more of these? Like what did that look like?
No, I wish that was the case. We started doing that after we became a franchise. Actually, with the very first franchise ever opened, the franchisee's become a good friend of mine. And I remember talking to him. We just had our first franchisee conference about a month ago, about 5-6 weeks ago.
That's awesome.
And I remember telling him, we shouldn't be friends. Like, you should hate our guts. Like, because we were not as prepared to be who we were supposed to be when you open up your first store. So just like simple example is first franchisee opened back then.
What year was the first franchise open?
My son is 6 years old, so it was 5 years ago.
So 2014.
2014.
So you went from one location in 2010 to 2 locations in 2011, 3 locations 11 and a half. 2011 and a half.
2012.
2012.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. And then how many more did you open before deciding to franchise?
That was it. We opened our 3 corporate stores, and we focused on the particulars of franchising. And then we opened. We were very fortunate enough that we had customers interested in being franchisees.
I'm gonna make a note that on how you were under prepared or under serving your franchisees by not giving them everything. Is that kind of what you were getting at? Like you kind of fell short as a franchisor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna make a note that we're gonna come back to that, but I want let's identify the scaling from 1 to 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And what the lessons were there.
No, I mean, I think the lesson was we were lucky, we were fortunate, business was good, and so what we did is we tried different things. I mean, you're sitting in our second Dog Haus, which our first Dog Haus was 1,400 square feet, had no alcohol, didn't even have beer and wine. And the second one we opened was the Dog Haus Beer Garden. We thought, hey, let's see what Dog Haus looks like with a bar in it, right? Much bigger space, has a bar, completely different environment, same food, identical menu. That was interesting. Then we tried we didn't know really what fast casual meant. It was really
how did you even know it was ready to go to number 2? Was it
I don't know. I don't know if it was a matter of ready to go, but we had the idea that if Dog Haus in our heads, it seemed like a cool place and it seemed like a good idea. And when we opened, I think our customers validated that feeling. So the idea was really, well, nobody's doing this like, in this, everybody was doing the better burgers. And as we've seen, there's a lot of other different concepts that have exploded. Nothing's really happened in the hot dog and sausage space. So we're like, why don't, we might have to go pretty fast. We thought that we needed to accelerate so that we can be ahead. I don't know if that was necessarily true or not, but that's how we felt. And so we pushed it. And lots of people open, 1 restaurant a year or something. But for us, that was a lot because we're still doing other things at the time. Dog Haus, when it opened, by the time we got to Dog Haus, By the time we got into franchising, so now this is like year 3 or 4,
Yeah.
we all had other jobs. By other jobs, I mean we had other businesses.
Okay.
Not until we decided to be a franchisor did we all commit 100% of
That
our
must have been
time.
scary, huh?
Yeah. Well, it was scary. But it's fun too.
Yeah.
Dog Haus is fun. I mean, there's a difference in owning a restaurant and being a franchisor. Your responsibilities changed a lot. You know, what you do on a day-to-day basis changes a lot. Back in the beginning when we had Dog Haus and there was no franchisees, I'd walk in the morning, create an item, write it on a chalkboard, sell it as the special of the day. Or, you know, Jerry, who's worked with us since the day we opened, he'd come up with an item, we sell it a special day. Like, we could do whatever we wanted because there was, you know, we weren't going to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Now everything takes time. It's a little more cumbersome. It's a little harder and rightfully so, but it's harder to do things and be that nimble.
So when did you know you had a winner? When did you know you had a winning formula and that this is something that you can double down on? Was there a number you hit, or is there?
After the third restaurant, we felt, wow, we've had 3, successes, and so we felt we have something that I think people are interested in. And I think
what
the very
classifies
first
as success? How did you identify it as? Was it the numbers that you were like?
Yeah, by success, it was a business success, and we felt it was a model worth exploring and expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And we had tons of requests for franchising. Are you guys a franchise? Do you franchise?
And that's a great symbol. When people assume that you're a franchise because of how well you're operating your business, that's the ultimate compliment.
Isn't it's a funny that what you just said is interesting because most people relate franchising to it's frightening and because you're gonna lose control, but also you associate franchising to consistency and so people have 2 different definitions of it. We had the same feeling as you did, like, wow, franchises we're gonna lose our soul, we're gonna lose control, and at the same point we're like, what are the most consistent restaurants in the world? Think what you want about anything, but Subway's the most consistent restaurant, McDonald's the most consistent restaurant. These are 100% franchisee owned. They don't own any of their own stores. So that was that's when we felt store number 3. After store number 3, we said we got to figure out a way to expand. We wanted to still go fast.
Mm-hmm.
And to accelerate growth, we thought the best avenue was going to be for franchising. And but at that time, we still didn't want to be a franchise. So very random act. Quasim's cousin sitting at a bar with his wife, and the couple sitting next to him happens to be, through conversation, he's a consultant. And he helps restaurants turn into franchises.
Interesting.
He got the guy's card. He came. He told Quasim one day while they were playing golf, "Hey, if you guys are ever interested in franchising, you should call this guy." We're like, let's call the guy, but we have no interest in franchising. But it's good to learn because we keep being asked about it. So on the way there, we're like, we're never going to do it. On the way out, we're like, we're fucking doing it.
What was it that changed your mind?
It was the mindset. The mindset changed. Once we realized that you're not going to lose your soul because it's just, it's up to what you want to put out there. It's up to what you want to hold as standards for your brand. And really, it's up to the kind of people that you bring on as franchisees. Perfect example is, Nima. Yeah. I mean, he's fucking great. I mean, this guy's he's a monster, and he's great at what he does. And Nima, this is, I think, the most fascinating part about franchising. You could take everything about franchising and think whatever you want about it, but you're taking a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I'm used to partnerships, right? And so is Andre, and so is Quasim, because there's 3 of us, and then you partner one at a time with entrepreneurs and people that we probably couldn't have afforded to hire. So you really, franchising is highly collaborative. As much as everybody on the outside thinks it's like the franchisor creates these really
Command
strict
and
rules.
control,
Yeah, and they're like
you're locked into the
iron
franchise.
fist.
It's not as beautiful as you thought it was. Yeah.
The truth is it's collaborative, right? The number 1 sold sandwich in the history of this world is the Big Mac.
Yeah.
Created by a fucking franchisee.
Yeah.
What happens if McDonald's says, I'm never going to put that out because I don't want to, I don't listen to franchisees, or it's our way or the highway. They listened. It worked. Highly successful. Same with, we're friends with Rick and Lise Wetzel, and I think the number 1 selling item at Wetzel's Pretzels is created by a franchisee. They gave us that advice very early on. Listen to your franchisees. It'll make a big difference.
Yeah. So is this the person that's giving you this advice? Is this the consultant that you ran into?
No. The consultant, he's the one that helped us do the legal part of creating the franchise disclosure document and the things that were really frightening to us and things that we had no idea about.
There are some slimy people out there that help with franchising, quote unquote, help with franchising, and they'll charge you through the nose to get it done. Be wary of those. Who's the name of the company, or share the name of the company?
It was Franchise Growth Partners. His name was Scott Simzik.
Okay.
He was really good for us.
Maybe we can put that in the show notes. Give these guys a shout out.
This guy was.
Don't go to anybody.
Well, I mean, the truth is, we didn't look at anybody else because we didn't know any different.
Yeah.
We went and we met with him. We felt comfortable. We feel like he helped us understand what we were getting into. We walked in not knowing anything, and we walked out and became a franchise, and we felt like we at least understood the game plan.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's one thing. There's a bunch of things you should outsource in the restaurant industry. Anything legal, anything
For sure.
like maybe like a CPA, anything that's just like a technical skill that you can outsource to get it out. Do it. I think when you're franchising, that's definitely one of those things that needs to fall under that category. Like you will lose more money trying to do it on your own than you will investing in an expert. To
well,
do it
the other
way
part that
time.
helped us was there's two ways of going about it. It's really a legal document, so an attorney could do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
But we used a consultant, and we felt he was previously a franchisor, so he was able to share with us his prior experiences, how he had dealt with franchisees, and that the landscape really helped us kind of understand what we were getting into. So when we graduated into being a franchisor, we at least knew that that process, and then it was up to us on how we were going to be and who we were going to be as our own brand. And I feel like that, we'll go back to Paul and our first franchisee, but we knew what we were supposed to do. We just didn't know exactly how to do it. And I think, you could ask him, maybe you could have him on the podcast one day, but he felt it because it was really challenging because, thankfully it wasn't because his business was slow. It was because his business was busy. And we didn't prepare him to be good at being busy, which I think is the most important thing. You find, the number one excuse usually in restaurants is like, oh, how come that failed? How come the service failed? How come the quality failed? How come the cleanliness failed? Oh, we were busy. The truth is you're supposed to be really good when you're busy. Otherwise, you're not going to be busy.
Yeah.
Right? So that sounds like...
So this is the first franchisee that you were talking about where you said you should hate us because we didn't set you up.
Yeah, there's no reason why we should be friends, but we are.
So what does setting them upright look like?
So back then, we still had the belief that we were going to make every single thing in the store because we didn't have scale. And so what was different was we didn't take into consideration that we had been doing this for 4 years. So the idea of doing it for the first time ever, we grew into Dog Haus. We didn't open up Dog Haus and have lines wrapped around the door like this franchise was fortunate enough to have. So franchisee. So when he, our training program was 2 days instead of, so this is how it kind of broke down. It's really funny. The first franchisee was trained for 7 days in our restaurant. And then when we opened his restaurant, we showed up on Thursday afternoon. We opened up on Saturday morning to a free house dog day where we gave out over 1,000 hot dogs.
Damn.
Yeah.
Was that strategy to shock and awe?
Yeah, well, the strategy was definitely to shock and awe, to say like, look how well, look how much you can actually do. All we did is, really hurt him, like physically hurt him. I mean, it was the guy who was beating up. And like a bunch of ding-dongs, we actually left the next day. Our entire operations team left on Sunday morning. We're like back home. In fact, it was my very first Father's Day. And so our first franchise opened in Canoga Park on Topanga Canyon. My brother-in-law at the time lived on a house in Topanga Canyon. And so I told my wife, I know it's my first Father's Day. I just had my son. We're going to my brother's house. I was sitting in the pool. I'm like, I'm going to take my Dog Haus t-shirt and a hat just in case Paul calls me. And so he does. I'm in the pool, I remember, and he calls me, and he's like, dude, we are getting murdered. I mean, murdered. It's like an hour and a half wait for food. So I'm like, babe, I got to go. I jumped out of the pool, drove. Luckily, it's literally on the same street. I called Quasim. Quasim drives from Simi Valley.
Which is smart, opening a place that you can get to quickly if you need to. I think that's one thing when you're scaling early on. You need to be able to get to places within a half hour.
Yeah, we needed to be able to get there. And the truth is, I think it's not to pat ourselves on the back, but we did. We went, even though we fucked up. We went, and that's what I think we showed Paul, which is why he doesn't hate us, because even though he should have been like, you fucking dickheads, like, how did you not think to train us longer? Like, really a day and a half of training of my entire staff to open a brand new restaurant. That's how,
So more training would have been something that you would have. What else would
so
you have done?
So now
to
we
enable
train, instead of 7 days in
empower
our
this
restaurant, we train them for over 20.
Wow.
And then at grand opening, instead of training for a day and a half, we train for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Right? So these are things that we learned, and like you just said, if you're not close, we're not opening restaurants that are close to us anymore, right? We open one up
but
in
you
Bethesda.
surrounded yourself. You built your team so you can have other
so
people.
now we're there longer. We're more thoughtful about our approach. We don't do the free house dog day on the very first day we open. We do it, 7 days later. So we give their team, because the other thing we did is, even after we started expanding our training, one thing that we did was we noticed that even though we were training them better, we felt more comfortable about them. The employees were just going through too much of a. It was too shocking.
Drinking from a fire hose, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, they were getting their asses kicked, and even though we're there to help and stay there to help for another 2 weeks, the one thing they were quitting, and so now franchisees are now having to deal with employees leaving. So we started changing things around. The good news is that we we have improved. I believe we have improved. And
what things did you change? This is huge. I mean, our jobs as restaurant owners and operators is to give everybody else the tools and services they need to be successful at their jobs, right? Yep. So what things did you start giving your people to get them to stick around longer?
Say that again.
So how are you empowering your teammates, your players, right, to not have such a high turnover? You said people were leaving, they were quitting because they were overwhelmed. What things did you give them, enable them with, empower them with?
We approached it in 2 ways. One of them was making the job easier, right? What can we do as a brand, as a restaurant operator? What can we do to make the job easier? Because the one thing that gets that gets lost in translation is, inevitably you end up like with a team of really great people. We've been fortunate enough to, through time, you end up the great stay, the other ones leave, and then you built up this team. By the time we became a franchisor, we had this like roster of really badass dudes. And the truth is that not everybody's going to be the best person that's ever, worked a single position. So now you're trying to teach people, not only for the first time, of different skill sets and different different places in their lives, how to be, how to do this job and how to do that job. So we had to look at it and go, okay, how do I make this job easier? Because not everybody's going to be like Jerry, who's worked with us since day one. So we went through a process, and we definitely, when we cut down on prep time, cut down on the amount of products we had, started really being more thoughtful in the way we crafted our menu and created it. We, the way we built our restaurants, the marketing approach, all these things we looked at and we said, how do we make this a little bit easier and simpler to...
And the compounding effect. You do a little here, a little there, a little here, and over time it becomes much easier.
And then you look back and you go, oh, do you remember when we used to, two guys used to have to walk in the restaurant at 6 a.m. in the morning, and now we can open the restaurant at 9:30 with one guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are things that you start learning as you go on. The other thing we did is we started investing in some technology and tools that we become available to you as you grow.
Yeah, you don't have the means to get these things when you're young.
You don't have
company.
the means. You don't have the knowledge, and maybe you have all those things, and that's why sometimes when people open up their second or third brands, they open up a lot more mature than when you open up your first one, and your intention was really never to open 35 in a few years.
So you went from 2010 to 11, the second location, and 11 and a half, or 2012 was the third. Then the fourth location was the franchise. That was 2014.
Yep.
Or was it? Yeah, that was the fourth location, right? When did you start really leaning in? Because in the past 5 years, you've opened an additional 36.
Yeah.
Or 35. When did you say we got it? We still
don't. We still don't.
Well, you must have come a long way in the past 5 years to start turning out stores at this rate.
Yeah.
I mean, how many stores are opening a year now?
We're out on pace to be like 10 next year. We're supposed to have seems like a very good year. I think we're going to do double that. I think we're going to open about 20.
Yeah.
We're also doing some non-traditional locations. So other than the 20 we were open, we're doing we're in the ghost kitchen space or virtual kitchen space or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I've been working with Kitchen United. We're opening up a bunch of Kitchen Uniteds next year. So, and we're partnered with Live Nation. We open up in 17.
Open up a whole other can of questions.
Can of worms.
We'll have to come back maybe another time. So, when did you? At what point did you know you could start increasing the rate of opening? How do you know it's time to really start leaning into the model?
I think what really changed is, so our team is pretty much, if you look at our team that was there when we opened our first locations for the franchisees and the ones that we're opening now, it's still very similar. But the franchisees are different. That's really where we really sped up, is as we start adding on really good quality franchisees. And I don't mean good quality by experience. I mean quality by, like, they understand, they're either business minded or they are, they're aggressive in a good way, and they want to push and they want to open and they want to be successful. I think that's the thing that has happened in the most recent past.
So you were attracting onto yourself the right franchisees because of the success you're happening with the first few locations.
Yeah.
So once you,
yes,
what's the filter look like? Because you said earlier the most important thing is people.
Yep.
How are you making sure these people that you're entrusting your hard-earned brand with, right? You put a lot of time and energy to develop this brand, and you have a lot of soul. You said your biggest fear was selling your soul, right? Losing your soul. How are you making sure that these things aren't going to the wayside when you're expanding, when you're bringing more people on? How do you know they're the right fit?
Well, I mean, I wish there was a test we could give them, or just a Q&A, but it's really just about connecting with people. And we do it just the same way we would do hiring a new employee, or we would bring on a new vendor, or we would bring on a franchisee. It's really, do they fit in the culture? By fitting in the culture is, do you like us, right? Do you want to work with us? Because there's going to be tough times. There's going to be great times. Like, are we going to do this together? Can we care about each other? Can we fight for each other? Can we do all these things together? That's really, it's hard to put that into words, or to do that in test form. But so we do it over a little bit of time, and we do it together as a group. Potential franchisees, we have somebody coming in tomorrow, actually. Very successful operator, one of the biggest McDonald's franchisees in the past, no longer is a McDonald's franchisee, but the fact that he's interested in Dog Haus, that's pretty cool.
That's a sign.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, some of our best stores are owned and operated by people that have never owned franchises. So I don't know where it's great to have prior experience and et cetera, but we're going to find out tomorrow by spending probably about 12 to 14 hours with this guy. Does he want to be a part of Dog Haus, and do we want him to be a part of Dog Haus? Not because he's going to ask the right questions about operations or marketing. It's going to be, does he want to be a part of these group of people that are going to, work their asses off? I mean, we used to say this when I was in judo. I started judo when I was 18 years old, and my sensei always used to say, we're going to go across people that have been doing it longer, but you're going to be stronger. That's the one thing and you're going to fight harder. Those are the two things he said I can guarantee you, because you're going to meet people that know more than you do and have done it longer than you do. And that's kind of our motto at Dog Haus too, is like, what we will lack in experience, we're going to make up for in effort.
And heart. Yeah.
And heart. And so that together as a group, if you want to be a part of that, and hopefully we're going to create something and start something special, and we're going to look back and it's not going to be 35, it's going to be 100, it's going to be 200 or 1,000. Who knows where it goes? There's going to be people we're going to look back and go, it's because of them, right? Mm-hmm. It's because of the Nimas. It's going to be because of even like Paul, who I said should, not like me. It's because of these things. And as a group, as a team, I think there's going to be some success.
So you're still a young company, a young franchise. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of positive energy around you because of it, because there's a lot of excitement with new things, right? What is your plan? I like to say, behind every great restaurant's a great person, and as a concept or as a restaurant group scales, that person has to lift everybody up, right? It starts with lifting up their franchisees so they can lift up their employees, right? What do you plan on doing to have that same level of impact with a few people in your life right now, that when you get to 60 locations, how are you going to have that same impact? How are you going to raise these people up when you have to lift up more people? What's your plan of having that same presence within your company when the company is much bigger?
Well, we had that question when we had 3, and we still have the same question when we have 35, and we're going to have 50, and we're going to have 60. And I think it's through, the truth is there's not going to be a lot of the 3 of us, but it isn't about the 3 of us. It's about everybody in this company. And as long as we continue to not only bring in the right staff on the Dog Haus side, on the corporate side, I hate to say the word corporate, but on that side, and we partner with the right franchisees, because once you partner with the right franchisee, that franchisee is a part of you.
Yeah.
Right? So now we're like, There's every time we add the right franchisee, our company gets bigger and stronger, and they help each other.
Yeah.
We have a group of franchisees that, you know, we just did our first ever franchise conference, and Andre had a cool idea, and he brought up on stage 3 operators that are successful for 3 different reasons. Nima's one of them. Quasim's brother in Bethesda, Maryland, Faison, he's another, and then we have an operator in Dallas, Fort Worth, in Richardson and Arlington, Texas. His name is Ron Ryan. Ron Ryan comes from a long history of restaurants. Ran the Maggiano's brand, worked for Brinker. Faison works for Microsoft. He's in technology, and Nima, he's got this incredible sales background. I mean, that guy should be leading a team of salesmen to take over the world. All these guys have 3 different skill sets, and they are incredibly helpful to us.
Yeah.
They talk to each other.
That's a
They
good
actually
point.
work together. They have inspired. So when they're on stage, they talked about what they do differently. We could have talked to our fucking face turned blue, and we could have done it for a week. That hour with those franchisees talking to their peers was the most impactful thing we did. When I say we, they're the ones that did it. That was really what I think
You bring up keep
changed. Yeah, that's what changed my, because we're still new, right? You said it, we're like babies in this world. I don't think I realized fully what we were until I watched them on stage, and then I thought, I know what we are. We're just a group of people together that are, and it's not a franchisee relationship. I mean, I like to look at it's like one big company, and every time we bring on the right person, they just add to this company and they help us grow.
Yeah.
And then they help each other grow, and they support each other, and they move forward.
I think it's so important. We talk about it a lot on the show, treating your employees like assets, not just, that didn't really come out right, but you know what I mean? Like, they're more than just employees. Like,
Sound like Donald Sterling.
They're more than just employees. They bring something else. Like, don't look at them as just like a cog in the wheel to do the job.
Yeah.
Because they bring a whole different set of
you get
assets
it.
and skills to the table that you're not. If you got to open up the channel of communication. Like, what else you got?
Yeah.
You're good at photography. You're good at marketing. You're good at design. Like, what can you bring to the table to make us all better? And I don't think we're really good at digging deeper beyond the paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much at our disposal, and when you bring it into the franchise level, now you have these people who are successful at life because they have the means to buy into the franchise in the first place.
Right.
So they're going to be doing something right in life, right?
I agree.
So they can bring so much more to the table. You got to open up yourself to the possibilities of what you have at your disposal.
Yeah.
This was just a really cool thought there.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it's unbelievable when you really start thinking about it, what you can do when you stop thinking it's easy. I could get lost in the food all day long. I could talk
We're totally
about the
packaging
food.
this up
Yeah.
and bringing it back to the hotel room.
I
by
mean,
the way.
we could talk about food. We could think about food. It could be all about the food. But if you really think about it, and you think about all the great, successful brands, not all of them is just, it's not about the greatest food ever made. Yeah. It's about something else, right? There's just something else.
You get why this podcast exists now, because you're opening a restaurant. Hope you can fucking cook. Can you do everything else?
Well, and that's the thing. It's a very low. It's a low barrier of entry, right? Everybody. Yeah. I mean, your whole life you hear like, "Oh my God, you make such good food. Why don't you own a restaurant?" And that's great. Obviously, hugely important that you care about your food. But it's what else is there, and that what else is when everybody looks at it and go, "How come, my food's better than that guy? How come he's more?" I just went to a place the other day where I won't name the name, but I was eating a breakfast. I'm obsessed with breakfast burritos. So I'm eating a breakfast burrito.
Best breakfast burrito in LA. Let me know.
Original Tops,
okay,
in my
cool.
opinion.
Good to know.
Original Tops on Colorado and Rosemead. It's amazing. But I wasn't eating that one. I was eating another one. If they hear this, they'll be pissed and I was eating the other one. But I watched these guys sell like 100 breakfast burritos in an hour, and I was like, I know that this isn't the best breakfast burrito in the world, but what is the magic in this place? And while I'm doing it, I'm seeing like the guy behind the counter talk to everybody, right? And everybody there is familiar and friendly, and they're doing an amazing job of it, and the food's coming out fast. There was like 100 different things where I thought maybe the guy who makes one really good breakfast burrito doesn't know how to do all the 100 other things that's important. And that always gets lost. It always gets lost because everybody looks at the one common thing, which is the one thing that everybody thinks is the most important. And the truth is, it's all about the people. And I think it's about that community and culture you grow And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of loyal, loyal fans, and they believe in it.
So the one thing that had me really, really excited about today's conversation, we haven't even started talking about it yet, and I hope it's okay. We're at an hour of recording time now. You are so good at collaborations. I think that's the one thing you do best or most well is your ability to go out there and to bring onto yourself chefs who have reputation and let them put a little bit of their slap a little of their special sauce on the your menu and really let them elevate the menu. And what's the thought process of bringing these celebrity chefs on and these collaborations, and how has that served your business?
So when we set out, one of the things that we found it easy to do was when you have a restaurant, we're big believers in, and what we want to do is try to do something good with it as well, right? It's a business, and it is hopefully going to be a successful business, but we also have an opportunity to do something with our business in the community that we think can be impactful. So we started by doing, by feeding the homeless here in Pasadena at Union Station. It's a homeless shelter, right? We have a restaurant. When you think about it, the cost is very low for the food. Our time was our time, and so we used to go there and help, and that made us feel good. We felt like we were doing something, positive. And so as we grew, it became harder to do those things, and it became harder to expect all of our franchisees to do those types of things because it's really challenging and stuff. We're lucky we have 3 of us, and we have friends and family and stuff. So we wanted to find a charity that we felt that we can get behind that was embedded in the restaurant culture. And so we partnered with No Kid Hungry. No Kid Hungry is an amazing program feeding children that don't have
good eye.
Yeah.
I see why you keep her around now. I'm still working on these ones.
So cheers. So that was one of the things that we wanted to do. So we partnered with No Kid Hungry. No Kid Hungry does work with a lot of chefs, and we thought, I remember talking to the guys. I was like, I would love, and this is where it goes from being, hey, let's do really good things, and me being kind of self-serving, because I love the idea of working with a bunch
doing good is good business, right?
But doing good is good business, but I also got to fit in a lot of fun with doing good business because I like the idea of working with that caliber of chefs. So it started with Adam Gertler. He's our worst mocker. He makes all of our dogs and sausages. He's been a part of Dog Haus since we opened up our 3rd Dog Haus. And then we had an opportunity to be a part of the movie Sausage Party with Seth Rogen.
Yep.
And then they wanted us to make an item with a New York-based chef. One of our employees was friends with Chef Elon Hall. He won Top Chef Season 2. So we reached out to Elon. I actually had met Elon and knew him a little bit. My wife and I went on our 3rd date at his restaurant in LA, the Gorbals. He's an amazing chef. So we got to collaborate with him. That was our first chef collaboration outside of Adam Gertler, because Adam Gertler was now a part of the Dog Haus team. Through that, Elon became a part of Dog Haus, and I was like, wow, this is really fucking cool. And there was no, I don't know if it was the environment or whatever we had created. They didn't look at each other as threats. They was just part of.
That's the big thing I'm getting after. Yeah. What I want to learn is, like, you have this business, this successful business, and instead of looking at these other individuals as threats, you're opening the doors and saying, what can you bring to the table? What was in it for them aside from, at this point you had a good footprint in LA, right? So they're getting their brand out there. I'm assuming
I think that's definitely definitely helpful.
Yeah.
But so as we grew and we started sharing, like, oh, this is cool to collaborate with, Adam and Elon are collaborating. They're a part of Dog Haus, and I was like, this is fucking cool. We have Top Chef Season 2 winner. Right? Why don't we create a chef collaboration series? Let's connect it to our charity. Because I believe that other people do want to do good. They just don't always have the opportunity to do it. And so we had the vessel. We had Dog Haus. We had a good marketing department. We believe we have a good product. We started partnering with chefs and said, hey, this is a we're doing it, for charity. We donate, from every item that gets sold to the charity. And so we just found a bunch of chefs that cared and wanted to be a part of that. So what they got out of it, I'm sure there were some benefits they got out of it outside of the fact that they're just good people wanting to do good things. We've worked with some really cool chefs like Alex Seidel in Denver, and Dean Fearing in Texas, and obviously Elon. Brooke Williamson, she won Top Chef Season.
Almost got Alex on the show. I was leaving the town before.
He's a fucking stud
we were able to schedule, but he's on my list, and hopefully the next trip out to Denver.
So he's amazing. He was amazing to work with. Bruce Kalman, who's a friend of mine, he helped actually put the first year together. So it was just fun, and I think the cool thing is when you're doing it like this, there's no egos. I personally don't sit there and want to put my finger on everything and go, I made this. This is all me. Blah blah blah. It's all everybody.
I think that was the secret: is no egos. Lose the ego. Make it about something greater, right? And it kind of lowers the defense, right? And then a lot of
pick the right people that believe that way.
So, with the collaborations, how much freedom do the chefs get? I'm kind of curious how we can recreate this type of collaboration in our own business. What advice do you have for somebody who wants to recreate that?
We give very loose guidelines. Is that just like we did in the beginning? We want it to be Dog Haus, right? So, we serve hot dogs, we serve sausages, we serve burgers, we serve it on King's Hawaiian rolls. That's what we want it to be. Now, we made fried chicken sandwiches, and so what's pretty cool about what we do is, for example, a sausage. If you're a chef and you're a creative chef, you could look at a sausage and go, that's just a really well balanced meal all put together in a tubing. And I think so what happened was like create within that small boundary, but we won't, and what we have not done is like we try to source anything they ask us for. I mean, I think we did for Alex's actually. We bought feta that he made himself from the farms that he has in Colorado, that kind of thing. So we want the identity of the chef to be there in our way. We want them to be creative and have fun with it because we want it to not be a miserable process. Yeah, we want our customers to be excited and happy. At the end of the day, we want our franchisees to feel like this is a really cool thing that they could get behind because every item they sell, we do better for the charity that we're participating with, and on and on and on. And what's really cool is we did it last year, all year. We did 6 of them. We did them for 2 months at a time, which was a pretty long time. But this year we did the same thing. We did in the first 4, which we only did 1 month at a time. We've raised more money this year because now we're just kind of getting better at it. Yeah. And now our customers are getting to wait and anticipate, like the turducken. We just did the October worst. Yeah. We did, and then we did our first thing where we kind of broke the mold and went out of the Dog Haus box. And Chef Chris O, who's done 2 collaborations with us, great fucking chef to work with, extremely talented, local LA guy. He did chicken wings. We did wings, which is something
I think the other variable here that's worth kind of highlighting is that I think one of the reputations a franchise has is, like you mentioned earlier, you're afraid of losing your soul. There tends to be less focus on the food, right? These are stereotypes. I'm not saying this is you guys. Obviously, you've risen above that. It's part of it. But I think by bringing these chefs on, these acclaimed chefs, right, you're tying your brand to the high quality of these individuals. So it kind of it injects that soul back into the business, and it shows that you aren't just another corporation out there looking at the bottom line. Like you care about quality.
Well, and we have to look at the bottom line because at the end of the day, it's not our stores anymore. It's other people's stores. So we care about that, but we also care, like you said, because now we know we can, right? We can be of higher quality. We can, be different. We don't have to be. The supply chain is really a complicated part about expanding.
I was curious about that. I didn't want to abuse your time. Do you want to weigh in on how you're keeping because you guys put a lot of thought into how you source sustainability, or like really good quality products, sourced. What's the word? With there's a filter there. There's a filter.
It's thoughtful, sure. and we're what I remember. When we opened up our first restaurant, I didn't have it. I wasn't even married. Andre didn't have a baby. And Quasim had just had his daughter, Yasmin, who was, I think, a few months old. Maybe like 6 months old. And I remember when we opened, if you're pregnant, you shouldn't eat things with nitrates. And I was like,
that's a lot of nitrates in a hot dog.
That's a lot of fucking nitrates in a hot dog. And is it that bad for you? And then, Andre had his baby, Quasim had his second, and then I ended up having 2. And I remember our doctor saying, don't eat while you're pregnant, don't eat things with nitrates. And I thought, that's not, I'm going to have my baby. My wife's going to stop being pregnant at some point and, whatever. But the thought of us serving something that somebody should not eat.
Yeah.
Because there's a health risk in it, and I don't know I don't know whether it is or isn't or whatnot, but these are things that we've been
The fact that
told.
there's a chance is enough.
The fact that there's a chance, and I don't want to take it. So we worked hard to remove that out of our hot dogs and sausages. So we don't put nitrates in our dogs and sausages. Same with our burgers, right? We don't. When we were pregnant, the doctor was like, "Don't." And this is kind of where it all stemmed from. We have children. We're married. We have children. We have families, and we're like, "Don't serve this to them. Hormones are bad. Antibiotics are bad. Don't do that." So we went out, partnered with Creekstone Farms. Our burgers, our dogs, our sausage, all the meat we serve in the restaurant has no hormones and no antibiotics. That was something that was. It's not. We didn't do it to say it. We did it to do it. First, again, like I said, like we had children, and we wanted our we want. I know that my partner's wife wouldn't have taken their kids. Same with my wife and Andre's wife. They don't want to take our kids to places that serve, meat with hormones and antibiotics.
So you said the challenge was going to be to scale this, right? The scale the level of integrity that you've put into this product. What's the challenge there?
The challenge is cost, right? Because now you still have to, like we said, the bottom line is important.
Yeah, but now it's not coming down the street; it's coming from across the country.
And now we have restaurants all the way across the country, and we're hopefully one day going to open restaurants, in other parts of the world. And so, really, the supply chain, and so as you go, you start creating the types of relationships that you have with your employees. You have them with your franchisees. You create them with the vendors.
So, are you creating this recipe and giving it to other manufacturers that can recreate it under your guidelines, under your criteria?
Yeah, absolutely. So we partnered with, for example, our local distributor. We worked with him from very early on, Vitco Foods. The owner has become a good friend. He understands our business. He feels and thinks the same way. He helps us find other partners around the country that can do the same thing that he does. We kind of facilitate our own supply chain.
Yeah.
We actually pay for it because we feel like franchisee and Clifton Park, New York shouldn't have to pay more for the hot dog just because of freight and whatever. We eat that part of it. So those are things that we do, and then we found partners that make the sauces for us with our recipes, with the types of ingredients we want. Same with our dogs and sausages, etc.
And I think that's the answer to this challenge is decentralizing the system.
Yep.
Whereas right now, I think a lot of the bigger companies have a centralized system that ships everything out. But if you can spread out if you can outsource to different manufacturers, given the specs and the guidelines, and have them get in on the business, now you're not. It's spreading out the wealth too. It's spreading out the love. So more people are winning. More.
Right.
It's more of a ecosystem of business. Maybe that's. I can't really speak much to that, to be honest. I don't know much. I don't know much about it, but I would love to know. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
No, well, I mean, so we have one guy who makes our dogs and sausages. We have one guy that makes our sauces. We have one guy that, obviously our bread comes from King's Hawaiian. One person makes all of our fried tots and fries.
Those
and things
tots
like
are
that.
so good, by
Thanks,
the way. You just reminded me they're on the table.
Get in there, yeah. So those are things that are important to us. And as we grow, I think we have partners that we were fortunate enough to... I think we have partners that we were fortunate enough to partner with us that believed in Dog Haus way before they should have believed in Dog Haus, right? Like guys that were making stuff for us that, no 3 restaurant brand should have had. I don't think we should have had that happen for us. We got really lucky, and we still work with them today, and we are, it's an important part. We don't do what normal brands do. We don't go out for an RFP every year. We don't quote out the business and try to play that game with them. We create relationships. We believe in transparency, and we work together to hopefully build a better brand together.
This conversation keeps on going, and it's so easy. The conversation, it just keeps flowing. I love it.
We could do this for a long time.
We got to think about getting to the speed round, but before we do, I got to ask one more question. And the mission statement of Restaurant Unstoppable is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. And I do that by making an example of folks like you. But how have you transformed? Who are you today versus the man you were getting into this industry? How have you transformed?
Well, this might not exactly answer the question, but I was just at the Marketing Innovation and Technology Summit Austin, Texas, with the co-founder of One Huddle. It's a technology that we're using to help train our franchisees and their staff throughout the country using gamification. It's amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an amazing platform. And I thought that's the most interesting thing that anybody has ever asked me to be a part of, because I am so behind on technology. I have absolutely nothing to add in that world. But I did believe in the ability to connect down the line all the way through, because the biggest challenge in franchising, when I know and I feel that people are the most important thing, the end of the day, franchisees hire their staff. We come in, we train them. There's still turnover. We're minimizing that and we're reducing it by hopefully creating better jobs and training them better and giving them better tools. But I might not meet a lot of these people. By might not, I won't. And by a lot of these people, it's almost all of them, right? So there's who's doing fries and who's cooking burgers and who's working the cashier across the country. We're adopting tools like One Huddle to be able to talk to people and connect with them and be able to share our culture, like funny things, important brand things. So I never thought about that stuff before, and I've been forced to, because we are forced to, as a company, Andre, Quasim, myself, we're all forced to improve the things that we are supposed to be, overseeing. And I think that's so. How have I changed? I think I'm adopting technology a little bit, and I didn't think I would.
Great stuff. All right, we're back, and the first question I have for you is, what is your it factor, a habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I get back to everybody.
I love it. What is your biggest weakness?
I mean, this sounds terrible because I'm taking time like I should know a weakness, but I want to say anything that doesn't sound self-serving, like I'm a perfectionist or anything like that. My biggest weakness is I don't shut off.
I get that. You might be still, but your mind's still going, right?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if I was I was listening to a podcast the other day actually about just why it was important to, like, for example, athletes, guys like Tiger Woods or Nadal, had that different backgrounds. One trained in only one sport, one trained in 100 different sports, and they're both the best in class. And I think it would be cool to stop thinking about food and restaurant things and really start kind of expanding. Not only good for the business, but I think good for my family, for example, personally, my children, things like that.
I love it.
That wasn't one word, but
it's fine. What's one question you ask or thing you look for during the interview process?
It's not a question, but the thing is like I talked about earlier, it's people.
And what exactly are you looking for in a person?
Do you care? Are you thoughtful? What
is your biggest challenge today?
Thinking small and being, bigger than we were.
How are you overcoming that? I think you answered it earlier, being open to technology, right?
Opening to technology, open to opinions of others, franchisees, etc.
Share one code of conduct or behavior you teach your team. This is a core value, a way to be.
1,000% know that the people that you are working with invested their lives into it and take it fucking seriously.
What is one uncommon standard of service you teach your team? So this is something that's common within your four walls, but not common within the industry. A way to go above and beyond what's expected from your guest.
So for Dog Haus, as a franchisor, our guests are our customers, our franchisee. One thing that we do is we care about them. We care about their employees. It's taboo in franchising to really get connected to the employees of your franchisees. We think it's important for us to connect all the way down. So it is taboo in our industry, but we don't actually
I wonder why.
agree with it. It's all legalities.
We can unpack that later.
Yeah.
A different
all
episode.
legalities.
What is one book that's a must read to make us a better person or restaurant operator?
Thought about this earlier. I have 3 restaurant books that I'm absolutely loved. One was Restaurant Man. The other one is Kitchen Confidential, but I think the most impactful is Setting the Table, Danny Meyer.
And all 3 of those books are on Audible. So if you guys are not listening to audiobooks, I'm telling you, it's a game changer.
Especially these because Joe Bastianich.
I think they all narrate. Oh,
They
all
narrate it
Yeah.
themselves, yeah.
Yeah, they do. You're right. And you can get
Anthony
these books.
Bourdain. I
Yep.
mean, what an amazing book.
Yeah, all those books are great books. Must read if you're in this industry. And you can get, if you are not a member of Audible yet, if you have not signed up for Audible, head over to audibletrial.com/unstoppable. You can get your first book on Restaurant Unstoppable, and you will be supporting the show. So thank you very much, Visa Link.
Do it.
What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
Well, I think we get bogged down by the thing that seems to be the most important, like we talked about earlier, food. And I think what's the most important, and this is a very uncommon belief, but it isn't the customer, it's the employee. Because if you think that if your entire focus is on the customer, you just skip the step, right? The person in the middle. Sorry, that's my wife's phone.
She's like, where are you?
If you if you go straight to the customer, which is obviously incredibly important, you're missing the person who's actually supposed to relay that message. The most important thing is the employees.
I love it. What is one piece of technology, we kind of already touched on this one.
Huddle.
Yeah. And again, that is just a tool for you to connect with your team members as you scale.
Yep.
Basically is the way I understood that. It kind of reminds me of another one out there that comes up a lot on the show is Wisetail, past sponsor of the show.
Interesting.
Similar.
You should check. One Huddle is interesting because the stats on how people retain information through standardized learning is really poor. And the way we came across it was me trying to figure out how to measure if we were even of value. We as like franchisors and my ops team, in particular, are they teaching something that's lasting? Are they being impactful? Like, do we make a difference, or is really the only thing that happens that we bring on a good franchisee, and when they're good, they're good, and they're bad, they're bad. So I wanted something where I could say, okay, we're going to teach, and when we teach, you're going to retain, and when you retain, you're going to like your job more, right? You're going to be a happier person because the truth is a job that you like is life-changing. Sounds corny, but you wake up and you're happier. You go to work, you're happier. You come home, you're happier because of it. You're nicer to your friends, you're nicer to your spouse, you're nicer to your children, et cetera, et cetera. So how can we teach them in a way that they're going to feel, more fulfilled? And at the end of the day, all by accident, just by playing a bunch of games on your phone about how to build a hot dog or clean the fryer or customer service, et cetera, you're going to do something better for the franchisee, the owner of that restaurant, because you're going to do a better job at your job, and your guests are going to be happier, et cetera. Yeah.
Yep. I love it. This is the last question. It's a doozy. I get a lot of eye rolls for this one, so get ready for it. I'm waiting for your eye roll. It's going to happen. I know it is. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you and your restaurants and your businesses were lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind.
Wow.
For the good of humanity and for your legacy, what were those 3 things you'd be that you could leave behind? Things you know to be true about success.
Well, I guess I would be thinking about my children and what I would want, wisdom I would want, and one would be thoughtful of others.
That's number 1.
Be confident in yourself.
That's number 2.
Number 3. I think be comfortable with being different. Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Be comfortable being who you are, right? If that means you're
sometimes
different,
can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. This has been a great
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. We wrap up every chat by calling somebody out. So who do you respect and admire in this industry, preferably an owner and operator?
That's simple for us. Dog Haus was very fortunate enough to be friends with Rick and Elise Wetzel of Wetzel's Pretzels and Blaze Pizza. They've been incredibly helpful and thoughtful and informative, and helped us guide us on the right path. We are endlessly grateful to them. So those are the ones that we think are
beautiful.
Yeah,
gentlemen, look out! We're coming after you. I'd love to get you on the show, and let the folks at home know, how can we connect with you and your team? Maybe we're interested in joining your team as an employee or as a franchisee. What's the best way to connect?
Oh, there's a bunch of ways. One, you could email me directly, hagop@doghaus.com. You can email us at wecare@doghaus.com or at franchise.com.
Awesome.
Franchise@doghaus.com.
This has been a great conversation. Thanks again for taking the time to share your story, your knowledge, your mentorship. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
We'll see. Thanks, brother.
Cheers.
That was fun.